Hi guys, and welcome back to Abridged by a Scot. This is the latest episode of Tolkien Abridged, the Silmarillion Abridged. And our mission statement, as ever, as we like to roll off every single time, Tolkien, bit hard to understand but wonderful. What else is wonderful but hard to understand? The Scottish. And I am Scottish and I am the Scot who will be abridging things. As ever, I am Rabu. So let's get into this. Last time, we covered a pretty big chapter, a big chapter where lots and lots of stuff happened of the flight of the Noldor. I would be remiss to try and cover everything that happened in that chapter. Basically a lot of stuff of, elves running away from Valinor and coming back to Middle-earth, and a lot of betrayal and more betrayal, and, elves killing elves, and generally Morgoth just, being a big old villain and whatnot. And nearly getting killed, etc. Just so much happened. Go back and listen to the episode. Go back and listen to the last episode, and you can have the full rundown, the full abridgment of the Noldor and their flight. But today we're changing gears a little bit here. We're kind of going back in time a bit. We're filling in some gaps with what happened to those elves who stayed in Middle-earth, who never went to Valinor, who maybe some of them saw the trees, came back, and then never made it back, etc. So today, chapter 10 is of the Sindar. So yeah, basically the Sindar are these elves that, you may remember King Elwë of the Teleri. He walked into a forest and then held hands with a forest spirit for a century or so. Everybody else left, apart from his absolute bestest friends. He came out. He is now King Thingol Greymantle. And basically he just rules all of Beleriand now because, there's not really anybody else there. So yeah, so now we're into this kind of period where Melkor is still chained. It's during the kind of first age of his captivity. Elwë, now Thingol, and his wife Melian, the Mire spirit, they conjoin, and a daughter is born, Luthien. She is half elf and half Mire, and she is hot shit. She is fucking class, and she is going to be so important to this story. In terms of the two most important characters in Silmarillion are Morgoth and Fëanor, but we're talking top 5. Luthien is up there, really up there. Anyway, it's time to get into the chapter. So yep, that's kind of where we're. So anyway, now you know what time it is. You know who we've not heard from for a while, probably since chapter 2, actually, since of Aule and Yavanna. It's dwarf time. Hi ho, hi ho. So not those ones. They're legally distinct from these dwarves. So these dwarves, Tolkien's dwarves, they come over the Blue Mountains in the east of Beleriand. They call themselves the Khazad, Khazad Dûm, whatever. The elves, on the other hand, are what the fuck are these? Who are these things? Because they're what? They didn't realize that there was another race that could speak and could actually communicate with words and stuff, and weren't just wild beasts and stuff. So they just don't know how to take these guys. So they give them two very distinct names going forward. So one of them is the nice one, is they call the dwarf the Gonhirim, which means the masters of stone, because they're great craftsmen. So that's lovely. The other one, not so nice, is the Naugrim, which means the stunted people. So bit of a mixed bag when it comes to elvish nicknames for the dwarves. But yeah, so these dwarves, they've come over the Blue Mountains. There are two great dwarven mansions there on the east side of that mountain range. There's Belagost in the north, there's Nogrod in the south, and we also get a mention of really far distant away in the misty mountains, west, east is Khazad-dûm. But that's way far away. The ones that we concern ourselves primarily with in the Silmarillion are Belagost and Nogrod. So jot that down, write that down. Anyway, yep. So the dwarves are here. Don't really know what to make of them. They low-key hate the dwarvish language. They're please stop making these noises. They're fucking disgusting. Would you like to learn our language? And the dwarves are yeah, absolutely. Because the dwarves aren't actually really hot on teaching people their language that aren't dwarves. They find it kind of sacred, and they have their own sacred names and stuff that they never tell anyone. But yeah, so they come, and King Thingol is man, I actually kind of love these little dudes. They can make crazy cool stuff. This is fucking sick. Yeah, make me some stuff. Gonhirim. Although at this point they primarily make stuff more with iron and copper rather than silver and gold, you know. But they're they're fresh projects, and they're loving it. They're absolutely going for it. So anyway, around this time, we're into like the second age of Melkor's imprisonment at this point. You know, things are ticking along, and Melian, Fingal's wife, who's a Mire, has a bit of foresight. You know, has her finger on the pulse. She kind of advises Fingal like, by the way, I know it's peaceful now, but peacetime ain't gonna last forever. Oh, hubby wubby. We need to get some fortifications. We need some fortifications. Why don't you get those dwarves on the job? So he gets the dwarves on the job, and they are buzzing to get to work. They are fucking loving it. Here we go. Fresh projects for the dwarves, for the Gonhair, for the Masters of Stone. Yeah, let's fucking do it. So, you know, they're getting new work and stuff. Melian teaches them a bunch of like cool like Mire tricks and stuff. And Fingal pays them with like these pearls that he got from Círdan the Shipwright, who lives on the coast. These like massive pearls. There's one in particular that's like as big as a dove's egg, and the chieftain of Belagost is fucking head over heels to this thing. He's like, thank you very much. I get to work on new projects and I get this fucking huge pearl. This is absolutely class. Thank you for doing business with us, King Greymantle. So anyway, they basically make Fingal like, we've already covered Nilgard and Belagost. They basically make Fingal his own dwarven mansion. Essentially, they hew it underground. You know, there's all these huge chambers and stuff. It's absolutely class. And also, the entrance is over a rushing river, and it's one great stone bridge. That's the only entrance into it. And this is going to be known as Menegroth. That means the 1,000 Caves, because it's fucking huge. It's absolutely class. And the inside and stuff, like the elves and the dwarves kind of work together. They absolutely kit the place out, like upholstery, statues, fucking get the Amazon Prime in. You know, a bit of the IKEA, you know, Middle Earth style. Some of the maidens of Melian make some sick tapestries and stuff. Like, it's absolutely brilliant. Like, you'd have loved it. You'd have loved it. Everybody would have loved it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely great. If they'd had Fingal on cribs, he would have, that's a bit of a dated reference. They'd had Fingal on cribs. Oh, he would have, what a long ass episode that would have been. Anyway, once again, time marches on. We're into the third age of Melkor's captivity. And some beasts and stuff have started reappearing, some wolves, some werewolves, some orcs and stuff. And the dwarves basically come to Fingal and they go like, there's all this like weird shit in like the Eastern Mountains and stuff. We don't really know what to make of them, I guess. And Fingal's like, right, time to get strapped up, here we go. And he commissions the dwarves to make him some weapons because, these lads can make weapons. They come with fire, they come with axes, gnawing, breaking, hacking, biting, burning. They know their stuff, so they make them, all the good stuff, swords, spears, maces, morning stars. If you can name a medieval weapon, they probably had it in Fingal's armory. And, like, they're so class. Like, even Tolkien kind of makes the point, like, even the Noldor can't make weapons this good, or, like, even they would maybe be on par with them. But the dwarves are also the first race to come up with the whole, like, linking rings for, like, shirts and stuff. So, like, Frodo's shirt in Lord of the Rings kind of thing. So yeah, just absolutely bomb. Like, crazy innovations, like, the R&D that these dwarves have been doing. Absolutely sick. So yeah, so the beasts are driven off. Fingal now has himself, like, a top-notch armory. He's got his pad. Class, here we go. Anyway, time to do a little rewind again. You may remember that when the elves first migrated from the east to head to Valinor, they were in 3 big packs. They were in the Vanyar, they were in the Noldor, they were in the Teleri. And the Teleri kind of, held back a little bit, and then they kind of split and stuff. So there was at one point, there was a group that was led by Olwe, and they were hanging out at the river Anduin. And a guy called Lenway stood up and went, "This is fucking crazy. Let's just go our own way." And a bunch of them went, "Yeah, all right, we'll go him." So they went south down the Anduin. They split apart. They became the Nandar. Well, time has ticked forward, and the Nandar are now shitting themselves because there's all these wild beasts and werewolves and orcs and shit. So Lenway's son Denethor is now the chief, and he's like, "Cool, okay, time to get out of Dodge." So they go over the mountains. They are welcomed by Fingal. It's like, cool, yep, you guys can absolutely live in this region. Great to see you. It's been a while, blah, 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 da. So they settle in the very east of Beleriand, which is like just over the mountains from where the Dwarven mansions are, in a place called Assyriant, which is the land of 7 rivers, right? This will become important momentarily. So yeah. So now, to fast forward a little bit again. So Morgoth, Ungoliant have come across, blah blah blah. They've had their fight, Balrogs have whipped Ungoliant, Ungoliant runs away. The Sindar hear Morgoth's huge like bitch scream that he does, and are like, whoa, what the fuck is that? What is that noise in the distance? That's absolutely disgusting. Oh god, I hope that doesn't come this way. Fortunately, Melkor doesn't come that way, but Ungoliant does. And Melian has to kind of ward it off. Back off, you spooky bitch. And Ungoliant flees into this mountain range nearby, which will become known as the Ered Gorgoroth, the Mountains of Terror. Think very much like the Cirith Ungol in Lord of the Rings, like the Return of the King. Shelob, all that kind of stuff. Similar kind of vibe. And yeah, so Angban's rebuilt, as we covered, and it's only 150 leagues away from Menegroth, which is pretty far away, but it's also kind of a bit too close for comfort. And you know why it's too close for comfort? Because, boom, surprise orc attack, here we go. It's the start of the Wars of Beleriand. So Morgoth, he sends out this surprise orc army that, he's built up. Let's fucking, let's absolutely set about the place. Let's, pillage and burn and, destroy stuff, as orcs are wont to do. They go down, kind of around where Thingol is. So they go to the west, they go to the east. And Thingol's cut off from his pal Círdan, who's on the coast on the west. But remember the guy we just talked about, Denethor, who's just settled in the east of Beleriand? Well, Thingol's like, cool, right. Sends word to him, boys, we need to get rid of these orcs. Sweet, here we go. So Denethor comes from the east, Thingol comes from the west, hammer and anvil, catch the orcs with their trousers down, woofed. Easy peasy, here we go. Wars of Beleriand have begun, and now it is 1-0 to the enemies of Morgoth. Here we go, boys, this is going to be easy. It's actually not going to be that easy, because this victory comes at a bit of a cost, unfortunately. It's all very sad. So basically, when the elves of Assyrian they first come west. They're the ones who meet the orcs first. And to be honest, these elves are not kitted out for battle. They've got like little bows and stuff. They're kind of more like see like the way that Aragorn is dressed in Lord of the Rings. Kind of like light and stuff, like little bows, like maybe a sword or two or whatever. Basically, the orcs start to fuck them up because these guys have never really seen battle, and these are fucking orcs. So anyway, so Denethor is basically cut from his people. Unfortunately, before Thingol and his people can get there and arrive and give the orcs the old walk for, kind of catch them in the rear, Denethor is killed, which is very sad. It's a shame. He'd only just taken his people out of danger in the east and is now forfeited his own life, unfortunately. And Thingol does not take this well at all. He is fucking furious, and he is like just slaying orcs in heaps and heaps. You know how like that passage in the Bible about like how Samson like kills so many people with like a donkey's jawbone until there are just heaps of bodies? We're talking that kind of energy. We're talking super fucking metal Thingol here. King Greymantle is also covered in red. Yeah, covered in orc blood or black blood, I guess. But anyway, this is so sad that basically Denethor's people go, cool. Basically, we can never, like, he did so much for us. We can never match him. We're never going to take a king again. We're going to retire the jersey. And that's it. We're never going to take a king. In fact, you know what? Like this is not for us. Like open warfare like this isn't our thing. So they kind of commit to this like isolationist and secretive kind of lifestyle. So they go back into like the woods of like Osiriand. They dub themselves the Laquendi, which means the Grey Elves, because basically wear this fucking sick camo. Think like Big Boss and Metal Gear Solid 3, And there's a few of them that kind of like still kind of want to fight and go and just merge with Thingol's people, but essentially this is what they are now, is these like, wood ninjas essentially. Anyway, remember when I said a minute ago that it was 1-0 to the elves? Well, boom, it's 1 each. Because Thingol gets home and he's like, oh no, he gets news. Círdan's elves, absolutely no use. And they were defeated by the orcs. They were driven west, and they're on the coast, and basically they're hanging on by their fingernails, by their fingertips. And Thingol goes, right, okay, we've got to do something about this. So he recalls all his people in this greater area that he rules, which is called Doriath. Basically the area around Menegroth, around his, sick dwarven pad. And Melian puts this enchanted barrier around the whole place. And this is going to be called the Girdle of Melian. And essentially the way this is going to function, anyone who comes across the Girdle of Melian and their power isn't greater than Melian the Mire, which is a pretty high threshold, you know what I mean? Like she's literally like a minor divine being, like a little god essentially. If they're not as powerful as her, or they're not explicitly invited by Melian or Thingol, then basically they'll get like befuddled and bewitched and stuff. They won't remember why they're there. They'll get kind of lost in the mist and stuff. And essentially they'll never find their way into actually Doriath. They'll never find their way to Menegroth. And they'll just, confuse themselves back out essentially, or they'll like die of starvation in the girdle. So that's basically how that's going to work. And for now on, Doriath will be called the Guarded Kingdom because of this. But so that's where we end with Doriath, and then the end of the chapter we sync up with more current events that we covered last time. This chapter ends with Feanor's crew landing on Middle-earth and burning the boats in his great betrayal of his half-brother Fingolfin. And that's where we are at the end of chapter 10 of the Sindar. And so next time, we'll be covering chapter 11 of the Sun and Moon and the Hiding of Valinor. Here we go, boys. The sun and moon, like we've had big lamps, we've had big trees. What about actual sun and moon? Yeah, let's have a bit of that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. As ever, any likes, shares on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, etc. all greatly appreciated. Really enjoying doing the podcast. Thanks guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you tune back in for the next one. So I'll catch you guys then. Bye.